Imagine this. You start questioning your own feelings, doubting your memories, and even wondering if your emotions are valid at all. You feel like you're constantly wrong no matter what you do. If this sounds familiar, you might be dealing with an emotional manipulator. Manipulators are not always obvious. They don't show up wearing a mask that says, "I'm toxic." Instead, they subtly twist your reality until you start believing that you're the problem. And this is exactly how they control you, without you even realizing it. This video will reveal 7 clear signs of an emotional manipulator. As you listen, ask yourself, have I felt this way around someone? Do these patterns sound familiar? Because once you recognize the signs, you gain the power to protect yourself. Stay with me until the very end, because the last sign is the one almost no one talks about, yet it's the most dangerous. And if you've ever doubted your worth because of someone else's behavior, what you'll hear today might change the way you see every relationship in your life. Ready? Let's dive into the first sign, and it might shock you because it's often disguised as caring.
Emotional manipulators are experts at twisting situations to make you feel like the problem, even when they're the ones at fault. Have you ever found yourself apologizing for something you didn't even do? That's not a coincidence. It's a strategy. They use guilt like a weapon. Maybe they say things like, "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me," or "You never appreciate me. You always make me feel like I'm not good enough." These phrases are not about truth, they're about control. When you feel guilty, you're more likely to give in, to do what they want, and to question your own needs. Here's the trap. Over time, you start taking responsibility for their moods and feelings. You begin to think, maybe I am too selfish. Maybe I do hurt them without noticing. This constant self-doubt erodes your confidence and makes you easier to manipulate. How to recognize this sign? Pay attention to how you feel after talking to them. Do you constantly leave conversations feeling heavy, wrong, or like you owe them something? That's not normal, and it's not love or friendship. It's emotional control disguised as concern. And if this first sign sounds familiar, wait until you hear the next one. Because manipulators don't just make you feel guilty, they also make you question your own reality.
One of the most powerful tools of an emotional manipulator is gaslighting, making you question what's real, what's true, and even your own memories. It often starts subtly. "That's not what I said. You're remembering wrong. You're being too sensitive. I never did that. You're overreacting. It's all in your head." At first, you might brush it off, thinking, maybe you are overthinking. But over time, gaslighting chips away at your trust in your own mind. You start second-guessing your feelings, your perceptions, and your decisions. This is their goal, to make you dependent on their version of reality. If you can't trust yourself, you'll trust them, even if they're lying or twisting the truth. Here's the dangerous part. Gaslighting can be so subtle that you don't even realize it's happening until you're deeply entangled. You may start apologizing for things you didn't do or feeling guilty for emotions that are perfectly valid. How to spot it? Notice when someone constantly dismisses or invalidates your feelings. If every disagreement turns into you being wrong or too sensitive, that's not healthy communication. That's manipulation. But it doesn't stop there. If gaslighting is the mind game, the next sign is the heart game, where they use your emotions as their favorite weapon.
An emotional manipulator knows your weak spots, your fears, your insecurities, your dreams, and they use them as tools to control you. The closer they are to you, the easier it is for them to twist your feelings and make you feel powerless. They might say things like, If you really cared about me, you'd do this for me. You're so cold. Why can't you be more loving? I thought you were different, but I guess I was wrong. These aren't innocent comments. They're calculated moves to make you feel guilty, ashamed, or afraid of losing their approval. They weaponize your kindness, knowing that you don't want to hurt them or appear selfish. The trap here is subtle. They create situations where you feel like you're forced to prove your love, loyalty, or care over and over again. It's like an emotional test that you can never pass because the rules are always changing. How do you recognize this? Ask yourself, do I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells around this person? Do they make me feel bad for expressing my needs or boundaries? If the answer is yes, you're likely being emotionally manipulated. But it gets even more dangerous. In the next sign, manipulators turn kindness into a weapon. They shower you with affection just to keep you under control.
Not all manipulation looks dark from the start. In fact, one of the most deceptive tactics is love bombing, when someone overwhelms you with affection, compliments, and attention to gain your trust and loyalty. They may say things like, "You are the only person who truly understands me. I've never met someone as special as you. I can't live without you." At first, it feels amazing, almost too good to be true, and that's because it often is. Love bombing is a way to get you hooked emotionally, to make you feel like you owe them something because they've given you so much praise or love. Here's the trap. Once you're attached, the tone shifts. The same person who made you feel like the center of the universe now starts criticizing you, withholding affection, or using your desire for their approval against you. It's a cycle of highs and lows, designed to keep you emotionally dependent. How can you spot this early on? If someone's affection feels overwhelming, rushed, or too intense too soon, step back and ask, are they really seeing me, or are they using grand gestures to control me? But manipulators don't just use kindness to control you. In the next sign, they'll use silence. And that's when things start to feel truly suffocating.
Silence can hurt more than words, and emotional manipulators know this very well. When they give you the silent treatment, it's not just about being quiet, it's about control. Instead of resolving conflicts or expressing their feelings, they shut down completely, ignoring your calls, your messages, or your presence. This leaves you anxious, confused, and desperate to fix things, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Why do they do this? Because silence creates power. When they withhold communication, you start overthinking, blaming yourself, and wondering what you did to deserve this treatment. It's a way to punish you without raising their voice or saying a single word. The silent treatment is emotional abuse because it denies you the basic respect of being heard and acknowledged. It forces you to chase after them, giving them full control over the situation. How to spot it? If someone consistently ignores you instead of talking through problems, if they use withdrawal as a way to make you feel guilty or desperate, that's not love or care, that's manipulation. And if this sounds familiar, the next sign might shock you because it reveals how manipulators turn every conversation into a trap, making you believe that your feelings are never valid.
One of the most painful experiences with an emotional manipulator is feeling like your emotions don't matter, because they don't. They might say things like, "You're too sensitive. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Stop overreacting." When they dismiss your feelings, they're telling you that your experience isn't real or important. This not only hurts, but slowly erodes your self-worth and trust in yourself. Why do manipulators do this? Because if you don't trust your own feelings, you become easier to control. They want you to rely on their judgment and approval instead. How to recognize this sign? Notice if someone consistently belittles your emotions or tells you that you're too much. Healthy relationships don't dismiss feelings, they honor and respect them. But we're not done yet. The final sign reveals the hidden way manipulators isolate you, cutting you off from your support system to make you fully dependent on them.
One of the most dangerous moves an emotional manipulator makes is slowly cutting you off from your support system, your friends, family, or anyone who might see through their tactics. They might say things like, "They don't really care about you like I do. You don't need anyone else, you have me." Your friends are a bad influence. This isolation leaves you vulnerable and dependent solely on the manipulator for emotional validation. Without other perspectives, it becomes harder to recognize the manipulation. How to spot it? If you find yourself spending less time with people you used to trust and feeling guilty or anxious about it, this is a serious red flag. Healthy relationships encourage your connections, not cut them off. But understanding these signs is just the beginning. In the final part, we'll explore how to start reclaiming your power and healing from emotional manipulation.
Recognizing these signs is the first, most powerful step toward freedom. When you understand how emotional manipulators operate, you begin to see the patterns clearly, and that clarity is your shield. Here are some essential steps to protect yourself. Trust your feelings. Your emotions are valid no matter what anyone says. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Set boundaries. Clearly define what behavior you will and won't accept. Boundaries are your personal limits, and they must be respected. Seek support. Talk to trusted friends, family, or a therapist who can provide perspective and strength. You don't have to face this alone. Practice self-care. Prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. Rest, recharge, and nurture yourself. Healing is not linear. There will be setbacks, doubts, and hard days, but every step you take is a step toward reclaiming your life and your peace.
The most powerful step toward breaking free from emotional manipulation is not about changing the other person, it's about changing your relationship with yourself. For too long, manipulators have made you doubt your worth, question your feelings, and believe that you are the problem. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You are not responsible for someone else's need to control or manipulate. This shift in mindset begins with self-compassion. Instead of blaming yourself for what happened, start seeing yourself as someone worthy of respect, honesty, and kindness, not because of what you do, but simply because you are. Repeat these truths to yourself every day. I deserve honesty and respect in every relationship. My feelings and experiences are valid and important. I have the right to set boundaries and say no without guilt. I am whole and enough, exactly as I am. When you internalize these beliefs, you begin to rebuild your sense of self, a self that is strong, clear, and free from the confusion that manipulators feed on. This mindset shift also means letting go of the need to control outcomes or fix the manipulator. Your healing doesn't depend on their actions or approval. It depends on your commitment to your own well-being. Here's the key. Manipulators gain power when you doubt yourself. When you trust yourself, they lose their grip. You regain control by trusting your intuition, honoring your emotions, and standing firm in your boundaries. Healing is a journey with ups and downs. Some days will feel easier, others harder. But each moment of self-kindness, each boundary you set, is a victory. Finally, surround yourself with people who see your worth, who encourage your growth, and who honor your truth. These relationships become the foundation for your new life, one where manipulation has no place. Remember, your peace, your sanity, and your happiness are non-negotiable. You have the power to protect them. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to Slow Psychology, a space where healing happens gently, deeply, and on your own terms.